everyone. So in this we will talk about the functions or methods in C Sharp. So let me open this Word document. We can just follow this Word document now. So we know that what are the functions. So functions are the block of the code which performs some specific task. So all of us, we might be knowing about the methods now. So methods or functions are the block of the code which should actually perform a specific task only. The advantages of functions are one of the most important advantages is reusability. Once you write a function or a method, we can use it multiple times. Modularity, it is used to achieve modular programming, wherein modular programming means breaking a big program into smaller subprograms. So it is easier to use those things, use methods, easy to debug, easy to maintain, easy to understand, and the program will come in a structured way. It will be organized in a structured way. And the functions are also optimized in sense so that they will be using less time, less resources. Now, what is the meaning of this statement? Optimization means anything, okay, that will be using less of the resources. So when you write a function, so we can say that on daily basis or whenever you use, so you will not always try to make that function better. For example, we have this Word document. I've written this Word document. So when I'm writing this document for the first time, might be at that time this document might not look like beautiful, I can say. But when I'm going through this document again and again, I can modify the document. I can use the bullets. I can write something in bold. I'm basically so I've opened Visual Studio. So let me go to File. We'll choose option New Project, and I will choose Console Application Template from here. So let me choose this template and let me name it as methods. So this is the project name. Let me copy this name. We'll put this name in the solution here. Let me change it. I will use in here method overloading. So my project name is method overloading, and this is this I will change it to methods demo. Solution, this is the project. Let me hit enter here. I'm using this version. Then again click on next. Once it is done, you will get the project. Now we get the project over here. This is the project. This is the solution over here. Okay. So method overloading means overloading the same method with a different number and type of parameters. For example, suppose if you want to add some numbers. So let me write a method for that. I'm using static keyword over here, static int add 1. I want to suppose add some numbers, int y. So it should give me now return x plus y. This is the return type for this method name parameters, and because it's mentioned int, we have to return something from here which should be of integer type. Now suppose we want to add 2 numbers or 3 numbers. I will say add 2, and then I will pass here 3 parameters like x, y, and z. Then I can return from here again x plus y plus z. Okay. Now suppose you want to add or you want to combine 2 strings. I will again use the same name. I can say static string, and then I will say suppose add 3 will pass 2 strings from here. So I will accept 2 string parameters and will say return. I can use this also string dot concat. Then I can pass these 2 strings, and let me use here. So we are able to get a space also in between. So need to remove it from here. This function will take 2 string parameters and will combine them with a gap also in between. Now suppose we want to add one float or decimal and one integer variable. I will again add method like integer. We'll use add 4, integer x, and then float y. So this method accepts. It will expect from you that you will pass one integer and one float variable. So return x plus y, and I should use here what I can write here float. So we are getting this result again in decimal form. So written multiple methods here. So we can see that now we've written 4 methods here. So in the first method, we are expecting that we will be passing 2 numbers. So this will expect that we pass 3 integers like that. So when you write different methods, so all the methods are actually performing the same task only, but it is the parameters name and we can say types and the sequence are different. So the problem in this case is that we have to remember all the method names. Yes. For example, if we want to add two integers only, we need to remember. So we can write here add one. So we need to remember which function we need to call if we want to add two numbers. So this will be a problem for us. Yes, writing so many methods with the different names, but the purpose almost remains same only. So we have to remember all the method names also. So the solution for this is that don't use different names, just keep the same name. So I will change all the methods like to add only. Yes. So this concept is known as method overloading. Method overloading means overloading the same method with the different number, type, and sequence of the parameters. So this method will take two integers, this will take three. So this should differ in all the methods. This is method overloading. What is the advantage now? Advantage is that now there is no need for us to remember. So whether you want to add two integers, three integers, one integer, one float, two strings, method name is same only. It will tell you here which we can see from here, telling you that we have the four options over here. So there are four signatures available and we can choose from here. So if you want to add two numbers, we can again still call that function. I can say 10 and 30. It will do sum of the two integers now. I can say want to combine two strings. I can again suppose pass two strings from here. It will again work. Yes. Need to close this also from here. So run this program now. So we should get output okay of these two methods now. So debug. Without debugging, so we should get the response for these two method calls. So this concept is known as method overloading. So wherein we keep the function name same and the number and type of the parameters that will be different. And also one more thing important, that if you want to suppose I will use the same method, this one, and if I just copy the name, this function from here, and I change the parameters from here. Suppose I want to take, I'll just use void here. It will again still not work. Why? Because in case of method overloading, focus is only on the input parameters here. It doesn't matter whether to change the return type. So the focus remains on this part only. So this will not work even though I'm using void. So let me comment this part now. Okay. So this was about the method overloading. Next thing we will talk about is call by value and call by reference. So let me create one more file over here. So I will add one more file here. So right click and then I will say add one more class. And let me add one more class. I will name that as call by value, call by reference. This is the class name. So we get one more file here and we can see that the class name is also the same by default. Okay. So in this, let me add one more main method from here, static void main. And we'll add two more methods here, static. Suppose void change one. Static void change to. Some statements will come here. Okay. So talking about call by value, call by reference. So what happens if I go to this paint over here? Suppose we have three functions here. One is your function. One is main method. Other is change one. And then we have function change two. What I want to do, I will declare a variable in this main method. This is your main method. This is your change one method. This one is change one method. And we will pass a variable here. Let me name this as X. And then we have one more method which is change two. So this is your method change one. We will take a parameter here X, and some statements will come after this. Then I want to add one more method. This is your method change to. This method change to, and we will pass one parameter here also. Okay. So what I will do, I will declare a variable in this main method. So let me name it as x. I will say integer x, and I will store here suppose 100, and then I will say print value of x. Obviously we will get 100 in this case. Okay. Then let me call the method change1, and I will pass this variable x to that function change1. What happens when you call a function like this and you pass the parameter? So by default the values are passed as a value only, which means, so when you say change1 x, actually x will not go. Yes. So because when you say integer x 100, so which means that you will get some memory in somewhere, and 100, okay, 100 is stored over there. So when you say change1 x, so actually in this parameter the value will go, which means 100 will go from here. So from this case what will happen now? 100 will actually go. 100 will go, and when you're calling this function, what happens? So actually the call will be like this only. The call will be like this. It will be like change 1 and 100. It is actually called like this. When 100 goes, so to store this 100, we need one more variable here, which means that when you are calling a function, the values are actually passed as value only. The parameters are passed as a value only, which means to store this value, we need one more variable over here. So this x and this x are actually different variables. So this x variable belongs to main method, and this x, it belongs to change1 method. So this x is actually a different variable, which is part of the change1 method only. So when I say in this case, when I say x equal to what, 200, and I will again say print value of what, print value of this variable here. So I will get 200 here only. But when I again go to this function main method and I say print value of what, x, I will again get here what, 100 only. Yes, why? Because when you call the function like this change1x, actually the value was passed, 100 was passed from here, and to store that value, a separate variable was actually declared over here. So with that, basically we get a extra copy of the variable. So this x actually holds 100, and we are changing it to 200 in this method only. So that x will remain part of this method only. Once you again come to the main method, it will still point to this x variable only. This is call by value. So in call by value, when you call a function and you pass some parameters, so basically the changes that you do in the called function, they remain there only. They will not come back to the this calling part. Okay. Then I can again say, I will again call the function change to now. I will say change to, but now I will pass address of the variable. I will say reference of x. So now actually x will go. So now 100 is not going, but now actually the x variable is going, because the reference of x means, so this x was declared somewhere. Okay, so whatever address of that variable was, so that is actually passed to this change to method, which I'm receiving here also. If I say again here x300 and I print the value of x here, yes, so this x and this x are now same variables, because now this function was called and the parameter was passed as a reference only, by reference only. So when you say change to and passing this variable like this, which means the changes done in this method will be reflected here also. Why? Because both of them point to the same variable. Okay. So let me go to the coding part now. Here, let me declare a variable here. I will say integer, suppose integer x equal to 100. Then I will say console write line. Then I will say value of x in main method before calling change1 method is, so we should get 100 in this case. Then I will call the function change1 and I will pass x, in which actually 100 will go. And I will receive that value also. I will say integer x. So even if the names are same, but this x is a different variable, which is just declared so that this x100 should be like stored somewhere. Then I will say x equal to 200. We'll again say value of x in change 1 is, so we should get in this case 200. And when you again say console write line value of x in main after calling change 1. So we should get now what? We should get, this is after calling change 1. I will again get in this case 100 only. Why? Because this x and this x are the different variables. They are not the same variables. Actually in this case the parameter was passed as a value only. Okay. So again we can see that in this project, so there were two classes, which contains main method. So it's also contain method, and it also contains main method. When you run this, it will give you error now. So we should get error because there are two entry points now. Again we can see, so we can see that program has more than one entry point defined. So what we can do, so we want to tell to the compiler that I want to start, okay, from this main method. So what we can do, I can go to this project file here and we can mention here. So we can say here in this project file, we can write here what? Startup object. Yes. Then we need to give the namespace and the project and the class name. We'll go to this file. We'll copy the namespace name from here, which is this one, namespace name. We'll again go to the project name. We'll copy the namespace name here, dot, and then I will copy the class name also. So basically we are saying that we want to run the this project, okay, from this particular class. Why? Because there were two main methods in this project. I want to start, okay, from here. So run this project. So what result we should get now? We should get in this case 100. 100 will come from the main method here, and then we should get 200 from here, and then again we should get in this case 100 only. Run this, start without debugging. So we can see value of x in main before calling change 1 is 100. Value of x in change 1 is 200. Value of x in main after calling change 1 is still 100. Okay. Then again I will change something in this method. We will say ref int x. Ref means reference. Let me put 300 here. And then I can say value of x in change 2 is printed here. This is value of x in change 2 is, so we should get in this case again 300 only. Let me call the function. I can say change 2. Then I should use ref keyword here also. This is the calling part, which means now we are passing the reference or address of the variable. Then I can say value of x in main after calling change 2. So in this case we should get now 300. Why? Because the reference of the variable was passed, which means that this x and this x, okay, are the same variables now. So again we should get in this case value of x in main after calling change 2 is again 300, which means the changes that we have done in the change to method are getting reflected in main method also. So this was about the call by value, call by reference. Next we will talk about, let me add one more class. I will say add one more class and let me name it as output parameters. Okay. So let me add, okay, one more method here also, static. This is the main method, static void main. Okay. So we know that every function returns one single value only. Yes, function will return, any function will always or can always return single value only. But when a function has to return more than one values, in that case we go with output parameters. Yes. So let me write one function here, static. Suppose I want to like perform addition, subtraction, multiplication and division of two numbers in one method only. and I also want to return the result from there. We cannot do, okay, it in a single simple method. Why? Because we know that, okay, let me just do that. I can say add will take two numbers like this. Then I can say what? I can say return x plus 5. This is one function which returns like sum of two numbers. I can say return x plus 5. I want to do subtraction. I will say again static int subtract. I will again take two variables like this only. Then I can say return x minus 5. So I can keep adding the functions, okay, like this only. But if you want that a single function should perform all the operations. All the operation means addition, subtraction in our case, okay. So, and they should return the value also. So in that case, we can go with output parameters. How can we do that? So let me comment it. We'll add one function static method. We'll use void. Let me write here suppose operations, and we will like take two variables x and y. So by default, when you pass the variables, they received parameters, they received as input parameters. Basically, we're passing these parameters from the calling function. Okay, but now we also want to return from here what? Like the result of addition, subtraction. For that, I will be using out keyword. I will say, we can say sum. Then I can again say out int what? Out int, we can say difference. Then we can say out int product and out int, or I can take here float also. We can say here what? Suppose quotient. Yes, this is how we declare the output parameters. So we have to use out keyword also here. Now we can say it's giving the error. Why? Because when a function or a method is like having output parameters also, it is mandatory that we should initialize these variables inside the function only. So I can say sum is equal to what? Sum is equal to x plus 5. Still error is coming. Why? Because still now these are again, we have to initialize other variables also. Then I will say here, as soon as we give like initialize all the variables, we can see that this error okay will be removed. That error okay will get removed from here. Yes. Okay, this is actually quotient. So let me write here q in small case. We'll copy it, we'll initialize, we'll put it here now. So we can see this error has gone, which means output parameters are the parameters which we have to initialize, okay, inside the method only. And by using this, we are able to return the values also without using returns keyword. How can we call this function now? This is the calling part. Let me declare two variables, x suppose 100 and y suppose contains 20. I will declare other variables also. So we can say int sum, then we can say what? Difference. I'm taken the same variables, but the variable name will be different also. Let me call it, I will say operations. So we want to pass two variables x and y. And this is operations. This is the operations. Operations mean the method. These will be passed to the method, and other variables will get value okay from that method only. This is the calling part. This is the calling part. Okay, we need to make it float. Now it's okay. Yes, then we can display the values. I can again say here I am using string interpolation, so we can use dollar here. Then we can say sum is sum slash n. I can say difference is difference, again slash n. I can say product is product slash n. Quotient is, then we have to close it also. This is the calling part. Okay, when a function is returning more than one value, without using return statement. If we run this again, we will get the error. Again, it will run the project, okay, from this class only. So what we need to do, I will again copy the class name and we'll put this in the method project file here. So we want to run from their class, this class which contains main method. Run it again, so we should get the result like of the addition, difference, and all the other things also. This is the demo, okay, for the output parameters. Okay. Then we will talk about optional parameters. So let me add one more class. We'll name it as optional parameters. Now, suppose I want to write a function here that is static. We can say I will pass the parameters as suppose int principal, then I say int rate of interest, then we can say int time. Well, this is integer time. Okay. Then we can say console write line. I can say here principal multiply by rate time. Okay. I want to call this function now. What is the problem here? Okay, we need to close it here. Let me add, okay, one more bracket here. Okay, I will call this function, so I will add one more main method here, static void main. Let me call this function now. So we can say this is the calling part, okay, for this function. So we need to pass value for this principal, then we need to pass value for the rate of interest and value for the time period also. We'll get the result. Okay. Now suppose I want to give some initial values. I want to give the default values to these parameters. Suppose if we want to say that the time should take by default 10 years, I can put here what 10. This is optional or default parameters, which means while calling it, I can simply pass the value for principal and rate of interest. No need to give value for time. It will take by default this value only. So we should use default parameters in the function definition when you want that the variables, the parameters should get some default value also. So if you want to give value, default value for rate also, we can do that also. So I can say suppose 9 and then I can call the function like this. So I can simply pass this value also like this. It will take by default 9 rate and it will take 10 in time parameter over here. But if you want to call the function like this, it is still okay. Now it will take replace this 7 with this line over here. So when you do not give the value for the parameters, it will take value for the default parameters. Otherwise, whatever values we provide, it will take those like values only. Okay. Now suppose you want to like put value for principal only, I can give that value also. So now this, if you want to remove that, this will not work. Why? Because we can give value for the default parameters only from right to left, So if you want to have some default parameters, so we should always put them on the right side. This will work. Yes. So just take this into consideration that whenever you want to give value for the parameters, so we should put the values okay from the right to the left side only. So this was about the default or optional parameters. Now next we will talk about another topic, which is let me add one more class. We will talk about one more topic, which is named parameter. Okay. So let me again add one more method here. I will say suppose static void display details. And suppose I want to receive here suppose ID, then we will say string name. Then we want to take suppose address. Then I need to suppose pass here experience like this. And we will print the values over here. I can again use here string interpolation. So we can say ID is ID. Then we can again say slash n, name is name, slash n, then we can say address is slash n, and experience is experience. Okay. Now, while calling the function, let me again add one more like main method here. I will say again static void main. Now, how do we call the function? I have to always pass first one integer, then we have to pass one the value for the string variable here. Okay, so I have to pass ID here first, ID, and then I need to pass name, then we need to pass the address, and then we need to pass experience like this only. Yes. Okay. Right now function is in front of me only. But the functions, okay, that we want to use, okay, they might be like in some libraries also. So we always don't remember this, remember the sequence of the parameters. Yes. Suppose I want to pass first address, then I want to pass name like that. How we can do that? So we can use named parameters now. How? I want to suppose pass name first. Suppose this is name. And I want to pass experience first. Experience. And I want to pass here address. Then you want to pass ID. This is known as named parameter. So while calling the method, while passing the parameters, we're naming them also. So whatever names are mentioned here, we are using the same names over here. This is named parameter. What is the advantage? Advantage is that now the program becomes, we can say, user friendly for developers, because they know that the value, okay, our values are going to which parameters. Also, we can change sequence of the parameters also. I am passing name first, I am passing experience, then address, and then ID also. Okay. So what do we call this? These are known as named parameters. Easy to, like, it is easy for the developers. They can understand that what parameters are going, okay, to like which parameters. So this was about the named parameters. Then we will talk about Param Array. Okay, so let me add one more class over here. So we can say add one more class. Let me run this okay file first. Again, I need to copy the class name from here. Need to change this in the project name here. So now it will run the program from this class which contains main method. We should get the response here now like this. Okay. Now we will talk about named parameters. Param Array, sorry. So let me add one more class. We'll name it as Param Array. Okay. We'll add one method here first, static void main. Okay. So we just seen one demo in the beginning only, that when you want to add numbers, we can write some methods, okay, for that. I can say static int add, and then I can like take the parameters and return the result, okay, from here like this. Yes. Then we can add one more method, static int add, and then I can pass, we can take three parameters like this only, return x plus y plus z like this only. But in this case, we actually know how many parameters we have to receive. Yes. So this method will like expect two parameters, and this will expect three parameters now. Okay. What if you don't know? What if you don't know how many parameters, how many values you want to pass to these functions? In that case, we go with Param Array. How? So we will say static int add, and I will use Param's keyword over here. Basically, we are saying that whatever numbers you will pass, it will store those numbers in an array here. Array whose size is not fixed. Yes. Then I can use the loop here. I can simply just sum 0. Then I can use the loop here for each. Then we can say this, and then we can simply return that result. Okay, from here we can say return. This for each loop is closed here. Return sum. Yes, I need to call this, okay, from the main method. How we can do that? I will say console write line add. So how many numbers, okay, will pass? It will convert or it will store those numbers in an array. I can pass one number, that is also okay. Yes. Then let me write here console write line add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Will work even then also. To how many parameters you want to pass to that method. Okay, let me check what is the problem in this code here. I think this is a problem. I want to call this function now, this function from this class. I should copy again the class name, should put it here in the project file here. We'll put it here. So let me run it again. So we should get the same result now. Okay, giving some error here. Okay, static void main is not there. Okay, this bracket is actually extra. So which means that at the end also the one braces okay was extra only. Let me run it now. So we should get the response. So params array are useful, okay, when you don't know how many values you want to pass, okay, to the method. So whatever numbers you will pass, it will store like those, okay, in an array over here. Okay. So we just covered some topics in methods in C#. Let me again go to the document. So we have covered, okay, these topics: method overloading, call by value, call by reference, output parameters, named parameters, default or optional parameters, params array. You can again refer to this document. So this demo, okay, was without method overloading. Method names were kept different. So the problem was that we have to remember so many method names while like making the calls. Okay, so we want to use same method. What do we call that concept? Method overloading. So method overloading means overloading a method with a different number and type of the parameters. It is actually polymorphism. Polymorphism means one name, different forms. And this is example of static polymorphism, or we can say compile time polymorphism. Okay. Then we have also talked about named parameters. So while calling the methods, when you pass the parameters, we're passing them using the names, named parameters. So what was the advantage? Advantage is that now it allows you to change sequence of the parameters while calling the method. Also, it makes programming user-friendly for developers. Okay. Then we've talked about output parameters. So we know that, let me write it also. This was actually about the, this is named parameter. So when you say method overloading, so we just talked about this topic, named parameters. While calling a method, when you pass the parameters, we actually passing the variables, okay, using their names. So it allows to change the sequence of the variables. Also, it makes programming easy to understand, okay, for the developers. Output parameters. So we just discussed that by default a function returns one value only. But if you want that a function should return more than one value, output parameters are used for that purpose. So again, we can see here also that in this function, these two variables are passed as input variables, and these are passed as output parameters, which means that it is mandatory that we should give some value to all these variables in the same method like this. Okay. Optional default parameters are the variables or parameters in which we give some default value to the parameters. So that means we can call the same function in different ways now. So in this case, we are actually passing none of the value. So it will take default value for all the three parameters in this case. Okay. Then we have discussed call by value, call by reference. Call by value means that when you call a method, we are actually passing the value, not the actual variable. Like if you say, I'm calling the function change 1x, actually 10 is getting passed from here. And to hold this 10, we actually have a separate variable here. So this 10 was received here, and to hold that variable, that value, we have declared a separate variable here. This is call by value. And in call by reference, we actually are passing address of the same variable. So when you say change to ref x, actually now x is received here, which means changes done in this method will be reflected in the calling method also. Okay. So we just see in this program also. We'll upload this document for a reference, and we'll also upload the same project for a reference over GitHub. So thanks for watching this session. Bye everyone.